Hey guys, I know it's been a while since you've seen this, but this is going to be a just kind of simple sort of review here of this rocket models kit. This is a 1/72nd scale like fictional tank. This is part of Rocket Models' ongoing Fist of War series where they have these fictional tanks. I guess it's supposed to be like as if World War II hadn't ended when it did, and this is sort of like the continuation of the development of armor. And they've got a few different kits out now, and they've got more on the way. Honestly, this is kind of one of the only few that I really like the look of. Some of the other ones I just don't really care too much for, but this one I thought looked pretty cool, so I wanted to pick it up. I've never built any sort of tank model before, so this is the first time for me. And I just because I just don't really have as much interest in it compared to like mecha and things like that. But this one being sort of sci-fi, and it looked just really cool in all the details and everything. I wanted to check it out, and I really enjoyed building this. Actually, I don't think I'll be going ahead and building more armor in the future because, like I said, they still just don't really appeal to me in general. But I did really enjoy building this one. That said, I didn't enjoy building all of it. The whole top half and everything is like the guns on there, super complex. There's so many parts in there, and that was a really complicated but enjoyable build. There's a lot of really small bits and everything, and it's just glue everything. There's a few seam lines on a few of the parts, especially like on the main barrels of the cannons, and a couple parts on there that had to get rid of those seam lines and everything. That's all. That's fine. When it came down to the legs, though, the legs had a lot of issues, of just fitting issues. Let me just turn this around. It's pretty symmetrical, so there's not a whole lot to see, but it's a little bit different stuff here on different sides of that. Definitely had some issues in the legs there. There is articulation built into the legs, and there's like little pistons and little joints in there. I pretty much just end up gluing everything. The only part that's really not glued on the legs is their now ability to rotate like this, just so I can change the pose of that. But in terms of like the angle of the leg and everything, that's all just glued and fixed now as it is, just because actually, even if you don't glue that, the legs aren't strong enough. Obviously, the articulation that's there is just meant for you to be able to choose a pose, I think, and then glue it like that. It's not meant to be like actually be able to use, because if you don't glue it, the whole body of this, like the center body of the tank, will be weighted down, and the legs can't support that. So you will have to glue them eventually, but you can choose the pose of that. So if you want to have it like walking up a hill, or like stepping up, or like stepping on something, you could do that, and that's pretty cool. The other point of articulation that is remaining here is that this whole top part will move. Now, as you can see, I haven't connected the top and bottom half. I'll do that later on after it's painted, or just during the painting process, but this top part will rotate like so. And as you can see, it's just super complex here, in with like the loading mechanisms of like the ammunition here. You can see that, and I really like this like really fine detail of all of that. It looks really cool. I have a couple parts that are a little bit misaligned. Again, this is my first time building anything like this, so it's certainly not perfect. I think it's close enough for me though, and yeah, I just really had a lot of fun building something different and something like this, and just all the details is really incredible. I really like it a lot. There are like some optional parts, so like this stuff that I've got here on the sides, like the rifle and extra ropes and pipes and things. And then around on the other side as well, more ropes and tools and stuff there. That's optional. You can put on there if you want. And then on the top here, this is all like optional parts there and stuff too, like a kind of hammer or axe or something there on the top. And even this little light and little bit there on the front of that. So it's cool. There were a few just extra parts that the manual doesn't really mention at all. You just kind of are free to put those on wherever you want. And then there were a few other extra parts in there as well, because I think this is reusing, this is using the same runner as some of their other kits. And so some of the parts are meant for other kits and just aren't used for this. So just be aware that if you do get this, you will have some extra parts in there. You also have some waterslide decals, which are pretty cool in just their design, but I'm not sure about the quality of these, just because of like just the printing of them and the paper they're printed on. I don't know, they don't look maybe quite as nice as some other ones that I've got. So I don't know if I might end up using these. I'll try them maybe if I want, but I actually don't really know how I'm going to end up painting this quite yet. I'm not going to paint it in a super realistic like military style. I think I'm going to be going a little bit stylized with that, just because it's just to my taste, but again, it's cool that you do get some decals included anyway. And this thing is pretty small, only coming up to maybe about 9 centimeters tall, and you can also change the angle of the cannons, of course. If you have those angled up higher, it'll be a little bit taller. Alternatively, for folks in the States, it'd be about 3.5 inches or so. So it is small for sure, but they are pretty reasonably priced. I think they cost around $20 or something like that for this. I think like for the first set of releases that they put out, and I think that's pretty fair considering what you get out of this. Like I said, some parts were a little bit difficult in the legs, but otherwise they're really, really nicely detailed and just fun if you're looking for something different to build. And I think this will work well. It's 1/72nd scale, so it's not really in scale with anything in Gundam. It's kind of like between, if I wanted to do like some diorama using this like paired up with a Gundam model kit, which is something that I'll probably end up doing with this. I think would be pretty cool. But yeah, the scale doesn't match up, so I have to either make this a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than really what it should be. We'll probably end up going with just pairing this up with something in 1/100 scale to make this tank actually, then it would be a little bit larger, I guess, right, is how that would work, than what it actually should be. But anyway, plenty of other stuff that I'm working on in the meantime, so I won't do any more work on this for the time being. But when I do, rest assured, I will share that with you guys, so you'll see more of this sometime later on in the future. One other last thing that I did want to point out that I think is a little bit odd about the design is how detailed everything is, and then you have this armor which is covering the legs here, which is just completely devoid of detail, just these big, huge blocks. And I get that it's just supposed to be armor, just plate, like a just big armor plate on there, I guess, but I think it could be cool if you like actually cut that up into a couple different pieces or something, just to make it look like it's not just one huge chunk. Seems like more realistic if it was in separate pieces, rather than if this got damaged, that's a huge piece of armor that they have to replace, rather than just switching off one part or something like that. So that might also be something that I'll do with mine, cut up that armor on the leg there a little bit, also just to show some of the detail. I guess I should show you guys what the underside of this actually looks like as well, because there is another turret on there, and this one can also move up and down and turn side to side, but again, for mine I just glued that in place, just fixed it like that. But that's the underside looks like, and there's a lot of detail, and you can see there's some like piston details and things like in the legs, and they're pretty nicely detailed, but it's just mostly covered up by the huge plates of armor on there. So that is pretty much it. I should also say too that you'll notice that a couple of details might be a little bit different from what you might see of this kit, just because, like I said, I did put on some of those extra parts and optional parts around in some different places that just I thought looked good to me. So when you're building this kit, some of those few little details might look a little bit different. Anyway, so that's it for the review. Hopefully that was helpful and interesting for those of you guys who are interested in this sort of stuff. If you have any further questions or comments, if you guys want to give me any further advice about the build or anything, feel free to leave that down in the comment section below. I would be very open to getting any sort of advice for this kind of thing, because like I said, it's the first armor model that I've ever built, so I'm certainly open to getting any advice from some of you more experienced guys. But with that, I wish you all a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.